Now recognize the gentleman, the ranking member of the committee, Mr. Pallone, for his 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we know, the President has announced that he plans on unwinding the current COVID-19 public health emergency by May 11th, and this is possible because of the work that this administration was able to do to control this disease. This administration orchestrated the largest free vaccination campaign in U.S. history, delivered hundreds of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of tests to the public, and provided guidance to schools and offices to open safely. And in no small part because of these successes, my Republican colleagues have declared that the pandemic is fully over and that the administration should suspend the public health emergency immediately. This, of course, was the first of the 3 bills that I mentioned in my opening statement that seek to roll back, in my opinion, COVID protections. And I have been very critical that such an abrupt end to the emergency would seriously undermine the progress that we've made. It would also ignore the sad fact that an average of nearly 500 people are still dying every day from COVID-19. The decision to end the emergency should be based on science. It should be with the agencies that have the expertise. And again, the President has said he plans to do this, which means that that could change if the COVID situation got worse with more variants, whatever. So the Republicans have also claimed that the administration does not have a plan for winding down the public health emergency, and I'd like to give our witnesses an opportunity to respond to that. I'm interested in hearing how we can continue to protect the health and well-being of Americans and minimize disruption. So let me ask each of you quickly, because I have 2 sets of questions. How are you planning for the next phase of the federal response to this pandemic, and what should Congress do to help facilitate a smooth transition? Dr. Tabak, I guess 30 seconds or so.
The specific effects on us are modest. We will have to work with our grant community for the slight changes that they will have to address when the PHE is over.
And Dr. Califf?
Our effects are also a little modest because our EUAs are independent of the public health emergency, so we can keep them going as long as we need to. We've been preparing the industry since day one to be ready for the transition. We'll put a Federal Register notice out about exactly how to make the transition as these products go to routine use and no longer used on an emergency basis.
And Dr. Walensky?
I'd like to be clear that we plan to address this emergency and work towards the safety and security of all Americans 24/7, regardless of whether there's a public health emergency in place. It is the case that when the public health emergency comes down, we lose some of our ability to see the data. We will lose testing data that we have as part of the public health emergency. We will lose other data as well, and we're actively working right now to set up data use agreements so that we will have the data that we need in the absence of those authorities so that we can see the data and be able to present them back to the American people. Finally, we do not in this country have a vaccines for adults program. We don't have a vaccine program for the uninsured adult as we do for children. And so it would be really helpful, and we're working now to see how we can ensure that uninsured adults will get vaccinated.
And as I said, winding down the public health emergency has to be grounded in science, and I think the public experts like yourselves are in the best position to make that decision. But as we look towards the future, can you just briefly discuss how important it is that these decisions are made based on data trends and up-to-date information and not ideology or politics? 30 seconds each. Dr. Tabak?
We believe in data. The data is very important to review, and the public health experts need to weigh in once they're able to review those data.
Dr. Califf?
We have a saying at FDA, "In God we trust, all others must bring data." And I've lived my whole life as a cardiologist, basing my practice on evidence. We need to have the evidence to make good decisions. I think Dr. Walensky's statements about the need for the CDC to get accurate, up-to-date data quickly is absolutely critical to the future.
And Dr. Walensky?
My job is to provide the best public health science for decision-making. I do that by being informed, and I can only be informed if I can see the data. And so I'd like to be informed so that we can make those decisions and then give them back to you so that you can make those decisions at the local level.
Thank you. And, you know, I stress, I know that I'm not arguing that there doesn't need to be oversight of what you do, which is, of course, the purpose of this hearing today. That's a very important function that we serve as elected officials and members of Congress. But I do think that ultimately these decisions about when to start or end the public health emergency have to be made by the agencies and the experts. That's what the statute says. And I don't want to substitute your expertise for ours, because I don't think we have the same level of information that you have or expertise. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.